The same thing about irrigation, which is a great thing. But when we divert rivers without considering the consequences, then sometimes rivers no longer reach the sea. There were two rivers in Central Asia that were used by the former Soviet Union for irrigating cotton fields unwisely. The Aral Sea was fed by them. It used to be the fourth largest inland sea in the world. When I went there, I saw this strange sight of an enormous fishing fleet resting in the sand. This is the canal that the fishing industry desperately tried to build to get to the receding shoreline.
Making mistakes in our dealings with nature can have bigger consequences now because our technologies are often bigger than the human scale. When you put them all together, they've made us a force of nature. And this is also a political issue.
This is a computer map of the world that distorts to show the relative contributions to global warming. In our country, we are responsible for more than all of South America, all of Africa, all of the Middle East, all of Asia, all combined. The per capita average in Africa, India, China, Japan, EU, Russia, there's where we are, way, way above everyone else. If you take population into account, it's a little bit different. China's playing a bigger role, so is Europe, but we are still, by all odds, the largest contributor. And so it is up to us to look at how we think about it, because our way of thinking is the third and final factor that transforms our relationship to the earth. If a frog jumps into a pot of boiling water, it jumps right out again because it senses the danger. But the very same frog, if it jumps into a pot of lukewarm water that is slowly brought to a boil, will just sit there and it won't move. It'll just sit there even as the temperature continues to go up and up. It'll stay there until it's rescued. It's important to rescue the frog. But the point is this: our collective nervous system is like that frog's nervous system. It takes a sudden jolt sometimes before we become aware of a danger. If it seems gradual, even if it really is happening quickly, we're capable of just sitting there and not responding and not reacting.
I don't remember a time when I was a kid when summertime didn't mean working with tobacco. It was just, I used to love it. It was during that period when working with the guys on the farm seemed like fun to me.
Starting in 1964 with the Surgeon General's report, the evidence was laid out on the connection between smoking cigarettes and lung cancer. We kept growing tobacco.
Nancy was almost 10 years older than me, and there were only the two of us. She was my protector and my friend at the same time. She started smoking when she was a teenager and never stopped. She died of lung cancer. That's one of the ways you don't want to die. The idea that we had been part of that economic pattern that produced the cigarettes, that produced the cancer, it was so painful on so many levels. My father, he had grown tobacco all his life. He stopped. Whatever explanation had seemed to make sense in the past just didn't cut it anymore. He stopped it. It's just human nature to take time to connect the dots. I know that. But I also know that there can be a day of reckoning when you wish you had connected the dots more quickly.
There are three misconceptions in particular that bedevil our thinking. First, isn't there a disagreement among scientists about whether the problem is real or not? Actually, not really. There was a massive study of every scientific article in a peer-reviewed journal written on global warming for the last 10 years. And they took a big sample of 10%, 928 articles. And you know the number of those that disagreed with the scientific consensus that we're causing global warming and that it's a serious problem? Out of the 928, 0. The misconception that there's disagreement about the science has been deliberately created by a relatively small group of people. One of their internal memos leaked, and here's what it said according to the press. Their objective is to reposition global warming as theory rather than fact. This has happened before. After the Surgeon General's report. One of their memos leaked 40 years ago. Here's what they said. Doubt is our product, since it is the best means of creating a controversy in the public's mind. But have they succeeded? You'll remember that there were 928 peer-reviewed articles, 0% disagreed with the consensus. There was another study of all the articles in the popular press. Over the last 14 years, they looked at a sample of 636. More than half of them said, well, we're not sure. It could be a problem, may not be a problem. So no wonder people are confused. Hey, what'd you find out? Working for who? Chief of Staff. And that's the White House Environment Office. American Petroleum Institute, it's fair to say that's the oil and gas lobby. Is that fair? Totally fair. Do a little bit more and see who his clients were. So he was defending the Exxon Valdez thing. Yeah, very. Thank you.
Scientists have an independent obligation to respect and present the truth as they see it. Why do you directly contradict yourself in the testimony you're giving about this scientific question?
The last paragraph in that section was not a paragraph which I wrote. That was added to my testimony.
If they force you to change a scientific conclusion, it's a form of science fraud by them. You know, in the Soviet Union, ordering scientists to change their studies to conform with the ideology. I've seen scientists who were persecuted, ridiculed, deprived of jobs, income, simply because the facts they discovered led them to an inconvenient truth that they insisted on telling.
He worked for the American Petroleum Institute, and in January of 2001, he was put by the president in charge of environmental policy. He received a memo from the EPA that warned about global warming, and he edited it. He has no scientific training whatsoever, but he took it upon himself to overrule the scientists. I said, I want to see what this